Well, hello there and welcome to Faith, Culture and Politics in Australia with Mark. Thank you for joining me. As those clips showed, if you have the ability to support me, jump on the buy me a coffee, click on the subscribe or the follow buttons and follow along to the content that I'm sharing. I'm bringing on the show today someone, and I've got to put a disclaimer in because Katy McCallum is a fellow committee member with myself on with Australians for Better Government. But Katy McCallum is a dedicated wife and mum who owns and runs the Kilcovan General Store and Cafe. She resides with her family atop the scenic Black Snake Range just west of Gympie. Katy had a 16-year career as a general duties police officer, serving across the northern region of Queensland in locations such as Beulah, Doomadgee, Mount Isa, Mornington Island and Kumoweel. If I've got that right, she'll correct me, before moving to Toowoomba and then on to Murgon. Katy's policing career allowed her to excel in problem solving, helping others and ensuring community safety. Her time in remote and regional Queensland fostered a deep appreciation for community and the unique fabric of the Australian way of life. It was during these years that she noticed the changes threatening Aussie values. In January 2018, Katy resigned from the Queensland Police Service and moved to Kilcovan to start a business with her husband. This led Katy to becoming an active member of the Kilcovan Action Group, which is pushing back against various renewables projects in the Gympie region. Katy's tireless advocacy against the mad rush to net zero led her to establishing Let's Rethink Renewables, which represents rural and regional communities adversely impacted by the reckless rollout of renewables. Katy now serves as the president of Let's Rethink Renewables, and we'll jump through the website as well. In 2024 Queensland state election, Katy ran for the seat of Gympie, achieving 22.1% of the primary vote. And Katy is without a doubt a strong vocal advocate who will never back down from fighting what's right. So welcome to the show today, Katy. How are you going?
G'day, Mark. Thank you. Thank you for that introduction and thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
No, that's all right. You've been quite busy. You've done a lot in your career, and you definitely, I guess, your career as a police officer as well has put you in good stead to kind of, really tackle some of these issues that you're tackling with the kind of passion that you're tackling as well. So good on you for doing that. So I might just quickly bring up the Let's Rethink Renewables website just quickly before we sort of kick into it. So that's you're the president of the Let's Rethink Renewables. This is the website. We'll be going through quite a bit, of that. Obviously, we'll have some images that will show the viewers as well about some of the things that you're proud of and that you're doing in the community and how the community's standing up. So I guess I got to ask first, did I get some of those names right? Because I left it.
I think you had so that people can't be laughing in the background.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I should have googled the translation.
Boya, Doomadgee, Camberwell, Kilcovan. But for those who don't know where they are, if I could just take a second to explain it. So Boya is a very interesting place. It's right out close to the Northern Territory border, right out in the centre of Queensland. And it's sort of the halfway mark between Mount Isa, which is that big famous mining town right up in the north, and Birdsville, where the famous horse race is held every year. And a lot of people know about it because it's where the Min Min lights are, the really famous spooky Min Min lights, which I did see a couple of times when I worked there. And Doomadgee is one of the most remote Indigenous communities, along with Mornington Island. I worked on both of those. It's right up in the Gulf of Carpentaria. So absolutely beautiful location, both of them. Certainly not places where anybody would go unless you were going there specifically to work as a doctor or a nurse or a police officer. That's how you say that one, Doomadgee.
Well, I got them all totally wrong as well, so that's all right.
It's okay because you are in South Australia and I'm in Queensland. I'm pretty certain there's lots of towns down there with you that I wouldn't be able to say properly.
Yeah, and I probably still don't get them right either, but anyway, it's just me. So I guess the big thing is what drew you into this particular, because I mean it's a very polarizing topic at the moment, isn't it? I mean, obviously the whole idea around anthropogenic climate change, man-made climate change, and the rollout of renewables into our whole country. And we know we've seen the map that was created by I think it's I forget the name of the
Rainforest Reserves Australia.
Yeah, Rainforest Reserve. So that map there. So there is a massive impact on a lot of people. And I'm going to show a clip shortly as well from another area where people are kicking back, but they're kicking back all around our country. But we've been told that the groups like yours are ridiculous and everything else like that, and all part of the conspiracy and all that sort of stuff. So what gives you your passion and what made you get involved?
Look, I am a born and bred country girl. So I was born and bred in Gatton in the Lockie Valley. It's one of the food bowls of Australia. And I think that when, right from a whippersnapper size, you grow up in a place where you see the reality of food production every day and you understand the foundations of what keep our nation running, I think that that is probably one of the best gifts that you could ever give a child, to allow them to understand what creates life and what keeps life sustained on this planet. Producing good, healthy food is the first and foremost thing that we should all be worried about. So I've taken that with me everywhere I went. I did go to uni for nearly 4 years in total, and I didn't finish my degree, but I started a natural systems and wildlife management degree at UQ because I was so interested in protecting wildlife habitats and protecting the environment, because you can sometimes see damage that is done by all sorts of industries. So I took that with me when I ended up leaving uni and joining the police service. I took those thoughts with me everywhere I went, all around Queensland and the rest of Australia when I've travelled. And it's always been very at the front of my mind, very much so, how we stay alive. And we stay alive by eating healthy food. So when I left the police service several years ago, and my husband was a police officer as well, and we bought the little shops here in Kilkheven, and we wanted to raise our kids in a country environment. So we went out of our way and left the big smoke of Toowoomba and moved out here to a rural area. And then I realised that they were about to put a giant solar farm. And I say solar farm, it's not a farm. It's an industrial estate, but it's called the Waluga Solar Farm. That's its actual name. When I realised that that's what they were doing, and I saw the cattle farms that had been bought up, and then it started to be built, I could not reconcile in my head in any way, shape or form, for a number of reasons. One, that there was a lot of cattle that grazed on these really healthy cattle farms, and that meant that food wasn't going to market anymore. That was a big issue. And two, the fact that photosynthesis is the basis of all life on this planet for us, and without it, we're in a lot of trouble. And I don't see how any person can think that it is okay to cover up thousands and thousands of acres of land with big giant black glass panels that stop the God-made sunlight from coming down through the atmosphere and warming our earth and doing what it's meant to do to keep the microbiome healthy in the soil. And then thirdly, I couldn't believe the trees that were bulldozed to put it in. And then they say that they have these offsets to make up for the land that they've taken. And with this one in particular at Waluga, the offset is this tiny little slither of land that runs up the back of the hill behind. And the offset that they put in place was that they were to regenerate this tiny slither of land. Well, I mean, for me, if you're going to cover 3,000 acres of land with black glass, that's possibly leaking toxic heavy metals into the ground and directly into the river catchment area nearby, you would want to be offsetting by buying 5,000 acres of forest or flogged out farmland and regenerating it. So that's what got me passionate, because I was driving past it, Mark, and it did not make sense in my head. And I don't think that I am an outlier in those thoughts, because I own the local shop and I see hundreds and hundreds of people every day who drop in for a coffee and a burger, and I'm making the coffees and making the burgers, and they always chat. Everybody's the same. They're just shaking their heads in in bewilderment that we've done this to this land out here. So that's what got me going. And I guess all those years in the police, and I joined the police because I wanted to help people. I know that sounds a bit lame because people go, yeah, whatever, you know, of course you joined to help people. That's what everybody has to say. No, I actually did join to help people. I wanted to travel Queensland and I wanted to help people and just make communities better places. So it was a no-brainer for me. I've got the ability to stand up and use my voice, so I'm going to use it. And that's what I did. Yeah. That's the story about where I got to where I am. Yeah.
Yeah, no, amazing. And look, the audience can see, and I've obviously working with you on the committee as well, can see how passionate you are. But the other thing is you articulate yourself very well, and the people that try to shut everything down, try to use their expertise, try to play on this whole authority thing, and they have all the science and everything, and it's really important to have people like yourself that critical thinkers that can that can look at things. Being a police officer, you have those skills as well, even though many in the police force let us down over other periods of our last 5 years. But you're obviously you're well researched, you're in the community, you're in the thick of it, you're hearing from other people, and it's not an isolated thing for just where you are in Queensland. It's all over Queensland, but other states as well, and so you've been you've been fighting back against this project. And I think what I might quickly do is see if I can bring up this quick clip. It's actually from Peter Credlin, and she was talking about something that's happening in Victoria, and so it's not just people like yourself, but this is how passionate a lot of people are. So I'm just going to play this little bit of a clip. If I can get it going.
But now to the astonishing situation that's unfolding along the VNI West route. This is the massive transmission line between Victoria and New South Wales to connect all of these potential renewable energy projects. Legislation was pushed through the state parliament just recently, and it's granted power companies, these are private companies, the right to enter a farmer's land without consent as part of the planning for this interconnector. Last Friday, landholders in the area rushed to the aid of a fellow farmer after a Vic Grid officer forcibly entered his land. And again today, similar scenes as power company representatives were confronted by local farmers refusing entry at Greens Creek and Bungaloo. Glendamere farmer, sheep producer Ben Duxon was part of today's protest, and he joins me now. Ben, thank you for your time. I tell you, my viewers are absolutely white hot about what's happening in Western Victoria in particular, and the way that all of your private land rights appear to be just disregarded, legally disregarded. Give me a sense of what's happened over the last couple of days.
Yeah, pretty similar out here as well, Peter. So obviously, as you said, VNI West, we've been in this fight for 3 years. They're trying to bulldoze their way through our farms out here. The locals are fed up with it. We've always pushed back on it, and we're continually to push back. We'll stand with fellow farmers, with the community, with every energy consumer in Australia, every taxpayer in Australia. We're denying access to the Victorian government. We're denying access to multi-billionaires, to former politicians, to Iberdrola, the Spanish company that's been granted the licence to build this massive VNI West. None of this is good for Australia. The truth's starting to come out. We're playing our role out here. We'll deny access, and we certainly won't let them into our farms.
And of course, the Parliament in Victoria, remind people, passed legislation with some pretty hefty fines every time you lock the gate.
Yeah, fines from $12,000 for individuals, $48,000 for companies, and they can come on with reasonable force as well. So, we know what we've got to do. We'll stand at the gate with fellow farmers. We'll build this as it gets bigger. If they try and get more and more power, we'll certainly push back with more and more people. And as you said, it's a pretty white-hot issue out here, and we're certainly just not putting up with this. This is a sham of a policy. It's no good for any taxpayer. It's taking us down an economic slippery slope, and we're just here to play our role, and we'll certainly push back as hard as we can. We've unfortunately got 4 weeks of it in one of our busiest times of the year, leading up to harvest at the moment. So they pick their times, but pretty resilient group out here. We'll keep fighting.
And
so that goes on a little bit. I mean, I'm not going to play it all because we obviously, time, and I will show a few other clips, but that seems to be what's playing out in Australia now, what you're talking about, that pushback even in your community, you're seeing it and why you're jumping on there. But this is happening all around our nation. And the sad thing about it is people are being belittled, pushed back on, and so forth. You resonate with that sort of messaging coming out of there?
Oh, absolutely. Look, I've been on a couple of meetings where Ben's been there and I've listened to him speak. I take my hat off to the guy. He is an inspiration and he's a true Aussie patriot and a fighter. And what he said there about the fact they're coming up to harvest and how busy it is, you just have to wonder, don't you? They pick a certain time of the year that they're going to come around and start trying to enforce this new legislation down there to get onto these properties when they know that these farmers are out in the paddocks working to produce the grain and the wool that we require to live. You just have to wonder whether that's not orchestrated, that they do it at that time of the year for a particular reason. But that aside, that was the principle we took up here originally as well, to keep our gates locked. We're really lucky in Queensland because at the moment there's no specific legislation like what they're facing down in Victoria, where these private companies can come and push their way. Not just push, they can actually take the gate down there. They can pull the gate off its hinges if they need to. They can't do that up here. What they can do is the government can come onto your land if they have designated that your property is required for a specific need under the Acquisition of Land Act. But you have to get given a notice, and there's 2 weeks that they have to give you to prepare. And I haven't quite been able to piece it together properly, but I don't think that there is any power whatsoever for the police to get involved up here to come and arrest you, whereas there would be down there, because if those guys decided that they were going to push back on those VIC grid workers, of course the police would get them for obstruct or all sorts of things and lock them up. But what this boils down to more than anything is there is thousands of these groups, just like the group that, well, I don't think Ben's part of an actual formed up group. It's more of an alliance of the people in his district down there. But there are thousands of alliances just like his, of neighbours who are out to protect each other on primary production properties all around the country. And I just want to give a message to the government, the current government at a federal level. You have woken a sleeping giant in Australia. It is a giant. It's the giant that produces the food and the fibre that allows us all to live. And it is not going to be long now until all of the people in the cities, people that may not have had the privilege to see what happens in the country when they were younger and understand primary production and what the backbone of the nation is, it won't be long for those people before we start getting our message into them, into the masses, into the millions. And when they start to actually piece this together, Mark, and they realise that the food that they buy at the grocery store, the price is going up and up and up. And why is it going up? Because of stuff like we just saw there, because property owners are defending their property rights instead of out in the paddock harvesting the grain or growing the sheep or the cattle. They're going to put all these pieces together and they're going to start to ask Albanese and Bowen, hey, hang on, why is our power bill going up 1,000%? Why is basic beef mince at the grocery store, which was a staple for every Aussie family on a weeknight for the last 100 years, why is it $28 a kilo? This is why. This is why. And this is what we're trying to do with Let's Rethink Renewables, get this message out to Australia. Let them know from a grassroots level. You can talk about the science until the cows come home about anthropogenic change to the planet and whether the planet's warming up. I mean, when I was a kid, we had an ice age coming. Then there was a hole in the ozone layer, and they scared the shit out of me so badly that I joined Greenpeace when I was in high school because I thought that would save us all. This is what they do. They scare us into submission and into controlling us, which is what is going on right now. But at the end of the day, for me, a person who has only ever lived in the country, I cannot see any terrible change to the environment in the 50 years I've been on the planet. But what I can see is that we have got families who are struggling to maintain their property rights. We've got families who are struggling to pay their bills because they can't afford to pay their electricity anymore. What? This is Australia. We are resource rich, and we've got families who really aren't using the washing machine or the dryer. I know a lady told me recently, when it's wet, Katy, and we're in a humid region, I'm struggling to get the clothes dry because I can't use a dryer, I can't afford the power bill. A working mum with 4 kids. That's where we've gotten to because of this reckless rollout of these so-called renewable projects. So good on you, Ben, and good on every one of these action groups and these alliances within these districts all around Australia, because there is going to be a whole heap more of it, because it is a sleeping giant. It was a sleeping giant and it has been woken up. And if you wake a giant up, I don't think you want to be on the other side when it starts to rub its eyes and wakes up properly.
No, you're 100% right. Absolutely. And look, we know the attack is coming on. You know, you mentioned these groups are all organic. They're all starting to springing up all over the country, not because of what they're hearing on, you know, on news or media or whatever. It's actually people on the ground going, something's not right. They're coming in for our property, our farmland, where we're able to grow things and so forth. So these are organic, but that's not how the government, you know, in particular the Labor government and the Greens, don't want to paint it that way. I'm just going to share this other quick clip because it's very relevant to your part of Let's Rethink Renewables. You're, like you mentioned, you're only one group out of so many groups all around the nation. But this is how Labor and the Greens think of groups like yours. I'm just going to play this clip.
It's interesting that where did the term reckless renewables come from? Did NREN come up with that idea, title?
Yeah,
or?
One of our members in Queensland came up with that on the committee. We were trying to think of a catchphrase to use, and that was.
It was also adopted by the coalition during the federal election. Yeah. So we have you to thank for that.
The lady from Queensland.
Yeah. And I guess what is playing in my mind is, how do we know that you are not, your organisation, NREN, is not a proxy for the coalition to fight their battles on the ground against renewable energy, which was resoundingly endorsed by the Australian people at the election, resoundingly. In fact, to the point where the coalition had their worst result in living memory. So how do we know, how does the committee know that you are not a proxy group to fight the battles for the coalition, given your close association with the member for New England?
So here's the thing, right? I mean, like, that was NREN, so that's NREN. I always forget what the bloody acronym for that is. But
National Rational Energy Network. It's a bit of
so that's them. So it's another group, right? And you know, you're obviously Reckless Renewables, not Reckless. So Reckless, and there's so many others, right? But here, Senator Michelle Anandaraja is trying to make a link that organic groups like yours, that's Rethink Renewables, is somehow some part of a bigger plot by the IPA, or even Advance is what they were trying to do, or the Liberal National Party. So trying to paint you all, and obviously there was another section there where the Aligned Council of Australia was disparaged, and I believe they're going to take action against that for having, you know, conspiratorial anti-vaxxers or associated. Now, how does that make you feel as someone, as a passionate local who has other locals, who genuinely feels like that you're not being heard, to have a Labor senator in a Senate committee like that try and paint groups like yours and NREN as part of a bigger sort of, you know, scheme of sort of people that have been put up to this by bigger corporations? How does that make you feel?
Oh, look, it's completely offensive to the majority of Australians who live in rural areas, because she's referring to everybody who is against net zero and this so-called transition to renewable energy sources. Because at the end of the day, what she's saying is that our questions about why they're destroying our communities, our productive farmlands, and our wildlife habitats and rural landscapes, she's saying that what we're asking to have it explained to us is not worthy of being answered, and that we're a group of people who are just making it up, and that we have some sort of political agenda, and that we must be involved with, like you said, groups like the IPA. Or I didn't even know who the IPA was until a little while ago. That senator and the other senators who are sitting on that inquiry from the left side of politics, they need to understand that all of these people out here in these towns are hardworking mums and dads who have bills to pay each week and are doing all of this work on top of their normal weekly work as volunteers. Nobody's getting paid. We're scraping together to just get a couple $100 here or there to buy corflute so that we can get our message out. And I believe the problem with them, why they're so angry with us, is that they didn't think that they were going to come up against opposition like this. They didn't believe that the sleeping giant, which is what I call it now, this sleeping giant of these quiet Aussies out in these areas, because we've never whinged, we've never complained, we've never asked for anything. They can't handle the fact that the giant is awake now and they don't know how to put it back to sleep. But they're going to have to deal with the fact that the giant's awake, because there is going to be so many more people standing up against them now. And this is growing exponentially. It's like a snowball at the moment. Every single time you look to Facebook or any of the digital social media sites, the message is clear. There are so many people against these projects in our communities, in our districts and regions, because it's destroying the fabric of Australia. At the end of the day, that's what this boils down to. And if they can destroy the fabric of Australia, it means they can rebuild it the way they want it. Further to that, I would love to share this story with you. In 2024, February 2024, we did hold the Reckless Renewables rally. I was a part of the National Rational Energy Network then. We held it in Canberra on the lawn there at the front of Parliament House. And we managed to secure some meetings with various politicians the next day. And I will never forget this. One of my dear friends, Glenda Pickersgill, who's been fighting so hard to save the Mary Valley, which is where the Great Mary River travels through here in the Gympie region, save it from the proposed pumped hydro at Barumba, which is the name of a dam that's on one of the tributaries. She came down with me and she managed to secure an appointment with Senator David Pocock. And he pulled out of that meeting a few minutes before and he sent an assistant. And the assistant pretty much came along to that meeting just to tell us that the senator is galled at you for having politicised renewable energy. And he actually repeated it 3 times. I still remember sitting there at the table. Reduced me to tears because I couldn't believe that we had gone all that distance down to Canberra, all at our own cost, mind you, to let him know what was happening up here, because we were made to believe that he was a little bit of an environmentalist and that he wanted to protect wildlife habitat. But when we told him about the endangered Mary River turtle, which is a completely unique species, it doesn't exist anywhere in the world. It's known as the punk rocker because it's got this like green furry head and it breathes through its bumhole. That's its 2 unique features that don't exist on any other turtles. We thought he'd want to hear. He wasn't interested. All he wanted to do was say that he was galled by us having turned up and politicised renewable energy. Well, I'm galled at him, and I'm galled at all of these left-leaning politicians who have taken to calling us names. I was on the ABC Sunshine Coast radio yesterday morning. I did a live interview. And after they finished the cross with me, they went to Chris Bowen speaking with Sarah Storer a couple of days ago. And she put it to him that there is all these people out here who are objecting to these projects. He lied through his teeth on the National Broadcasting Network. And he said, I can tell you, Sarah, it is a lie. It is all a lie that there are people objecting to these projects. We've done the studies. We've done the research. There is nobody out in these rural communities. I've been to them. They are all happy for the rollout. They know we need to do this to save the planet. Well, Chris Bowen, please come and see me in Kilkeven, because I'm going to take you around to thousands of really angry farmers, tree changers, and people like me who bought 900 acres of land here on the Black Snake Range where I'm sitting right now to protect it. So come on out, Chris Bowen. Come to Queensland, because I actually don't remember you ever having been to a rural location out here. So I am not sure how it is that you can be having a Senate inquiry into information integrity when the words coming out of your mouth are lies, outright lies. So, yeah, that's how I feel about her. It's offensive. I feel offended on behalf of all of the people who I've spoken to over the last few years who are being crippled by this rollout. It's absolutely offensive that these people are sitting in a building being paid for by us and they are lying about how people feel about this stuff.
Yeah, and it's really, I find it really hypocritical, for people like Senator Ananda Raja to, claim that organisations like yours could possibly be proxy when she was manifesting the World Economic Forum, she's manifesting the United Nations. Like these groups have actively been involved in funding and organising, and others, massive groups to push renewables and push the narrative around climate change. So all these politicians that have been, all you've heard from them is a narrative about renewables good at all costs. We need to do this, and I look at it and I believe that people like her and the Labor Party in particular and the Greens seem to be proxy for these internationalist, global corporatist organisations that are only benefit for themselves and not for Australians. Whereas people like you, Katy, and others and groups around the country similar to yours, let's rethink renewables, are hardworking, ordinary Australians, mums and dads, grandparents, whatever, pushing back on what they believe is not sustainable. It's damaging, the environment, farmland and wildlife and everything. So that's how I, and that's the take I got from listening to Senator. It's ridiculous.
Well, essentially what she's saying is that she believes that the government has a right over and above the individual property owner. That's what she's saying. She's saying that our rights and what we believe is best for the country, that she knows better. So when you start eroding property rights, you've got big issues, really big issues, because that is the one foundational core thing that we all have as sovereign beings on this earth, to have rights to our property and to have those rights protected. Well, people like her appear to me to be trying to erode those rights. And any old person can see what that means and where that's headed. When you start taking people's property rights away from them and tell them that they know better and that they've decided that they want to use your hard-earned piece of property that you owned for a different reason, and you're telling them, no, this is not good. You're going to destroy the environment here and destroy our community. There's big questions to be asked about any politician who thinks that is a way forward, because it is not a way forward.
Yeah, and look, it's one of the reasons, and we don't want to go. I'm not going to go down that side of things, but it's one of the reasons that I guess yourself and myself are involved with Australians for Better Government, because we're looking at instigating those conversations about protecting those exact things, like whether they be property rights, our medical rights, and so many other things, and a better system about in regards to government and so forth. And while we're involved in that, because it's what's happening all around our nation, and it's really just about making our fellow countrymen and women aware of the slow infiltration and influence from global organisations. Just want to take this quick opportunity to play a little clip that we got sent through from you, and just play that and talk into that.
Lies. We're being told lies by greedy foreign developers who want to build renewable energy projects in Australia. They are not good for the environment. Thousands of hectares of productive farmland will be cleared and native wildlife will die. These developments promise clean energy, but at what cost? Let's help protect our communities and irreplaceable way of life. Let's rethink renewables. Take 2 minutes to learn the truth about the destruction they cause. Go to letsrethinkrenewables.org.
So pretty well put together. You've got obviously got your own that's off the website and so forth. So it's talking into that. So it's really a call to action from other families, community members within Australia, really just to have those conversations. So rather than having a government saying any counter talk in regards to renewables and climate change needs to be shut down as mis and disinformation, because this is what they were getting at in the committee. But what you're saying in your group, Let's Rethink Renewables, is like, let's keep this conversation going. Let's hear our voices and hear the other side. And how important is that for Australians to know that there needs to be, that what they're trying to do here is actually shut down their voices and your voices, but the other people's ability to hear your voice is the other thing they're trying to do.
Oh, absolutely. For us to get cut through over the last few years with mainstream media, it's been almost impossible. I mean, Sky News seems to have picked up the ball now and runs with it just about every single night of the week, which is fantastic. But a lot of people don't realise that Sky News isn't available in the city unless you pay for it. It's available for free. It's free to air out here in rural areas. So I don't think that our message is even getting into the city, which is where it needs to get to. And that's why we thought that the Let's Rethink Renewables campaign, and we call it a campaign because it's the 5 pillars of what we believe holds this nation up. And that is the rural landscapes, the strong communities, the productive farmlands, the wildlife habitats, and most importantly, the Australian way of life, because those are the things that these so-called industrial-sized renewable energy projects are destroying. For us to get that message into the city, well, first of all, we can't afford it. And it's been very clear through the information integrity inquiry over the last couple of weeks, even if we had have taken some donations from various people, they want to tear us to shreds over where that money came from. And we haven't. Let's Rethink Renewables is completely funded by hard-earned dollars from primary producers in the Gympie region, and from one particular lady who gave us a very big donation of $20,000, which is so much money. And that main amount was used to fund our campaign because she sees fit to give that amount away every year to a good cause. Absolutely generous lady. But why, if somebody wants to come to us and say, well, we can see that what you are saying is true and that this needs to be pushed into the city so that people can open up the conversation. That's what we want. We just want the conversation opened up. We want people in the city to have a think, wow, those rural landscapes that I drive out through on the weekends when I have my weekends away and my drives. I mean, out the back of Sydney already, a lot of that country's being taken over by solar farms. We want people to start to think about the consequences of that, because where are you going to go for your weekend drives once 70% of productive farmland is covered with solar panels? And we can't get that message into the city because it's costly. Even to run a Facebook campaign, it's costly. But if we took a donation from somebody who they somehow found was connected to Coal Australia at some point or had shares in a fossil fuel company, they come for us. They come for the throat. Like, they're dirty fighters. Why shouldn't we be allowed to get some donations from those groups if they can see that what we're doing is good for the country and good for communities? It's a really unfair playing field that we're on. We've been hamstrung so badly because right from the get-go, the mainstream media has been sold out to this vision of this green Australia. Well, guess what, mainstream media? Australia is green already. Like, take a drive outside of the city. That's what I'm asking everybody. Drive outside of the city and have a look. Places like here in the Gympie region, every single place you stop, you can turn around and look, and there are stunning, big, medium-sized mountains covered in forest. Covered. So if they think that the country's not green, well, stop building cities. Because are you anti-human? Do you not want humans to survive? We understand that you need your cities, but you need to come out of those cities and you need to come and look at the places like where I live and see what we're doing to protect these areas. And to protect them, we need to stop 3,000 acres of black glass being put in koala habitat and over what was once productive beef grazing land. So I don't know how we can get that message, Mark, into the mainstream media and into the cities where it needs to get to. It's a hard task, but it's one that we're all up to the fight for, and it's what we're all trying to achieve. I mean, we've got members from all over Australia now who are on our committee, and we're all fighting the same fight. So if we can get the message out in every district of every state and territory in Australia, that would be great. I mean, we've got those big shipping containers. I think, I'm not sure if we can pull those pictures up, but I sent you those shipping container images. Now, that was is a personal mate of mine, and he came to the fore, and I think it was well over $30,000. And he just built those shipping containers himself. He had a shipping container company. There it is. And he transported them all around Queensland for us. There's one up at Billawheeler. There's one out here near Barumba in the Mary Valley. And there's another one down at Upper Mount Walker out behind Rosewood, just to get the message out. Because if people can just read that and think, oh yeah, our rural landscapes are unrenewable. Once they're gone, they're gone. How do we get them back? You don't get them back, because who do you think is going to come in and pull all of these wind turbines and solar panels down in 20 years when they're useless? And if that's the energy source that we're going to click over to provide our electricity, and it has to be replaced every 15 to 20 years, where are they going to put the next lot once this lot's broken down? You know, we already had hail wipe out the Woolooga solar farm. You know, over 100,000 panels were destroyed, and they had to order 63 container loads from China to replace them. And they use our coal that they're burning up there to produce these solar panels, and they stick them on a big ship, and that ship comes down. I'm not sure if people realise where all of our goods come from. They come on ships that use diesel, and they chug down the east coast of Australia through the Great Barrier Reef, right on the edge of it. And sometimes, as we saw several years ago, the captain gets it wrong and he runs ashore into the Great Barrier Reef. So if we're into looking after the environment, how's about we have a look at the energy sources that we have here in this great nation. We look at using them in a sustainable manner and an environmentally friendly manner, and we just look after ourselves. Because this is madness to think that we would forego productive farmland to put in giant solar farms, which are going to be no good in about 15 years. Yeah, so that's the message that we need to get to everybody, but it's just really hard. But the more people that share our message, the better. I'm not a huge fan of Meta, but Facebook is an amazing resource that we can all use to get our message out. We just need to get it into some different places where it's not getting at the moment.
Absolutely. Well, I've seen it sort of opened up its scope a bit more than it did over the COVID period, and there seems to be almost, for me anyway, a bit more restriction on X. But anyway, definitely the message is exactly right. We need to find ways to get it out there to the everyday person, and especially when we consider you mentioned some good things there. We export our coal, gas, or everything that we do, and we get bugger all for it. There's heaps of commentators talking into that, how we're not even getting the royalties for it. The companies are making massive amounts of dollars, and it's going over to other countries that are steaming ahead with coal-fired power plants and everything else like that, and manufacturing steel, and then sending all that back to our country where we can't produce that anymore, and have our manufacturing, and we buy it all. And for a country that produces less than 1% of the global emissions that they're talking about, and they're ruining our economy, our wildlife and environment. So absolutely terrible. I just wanted to play back, because you hit the nail on the head about your message getting out and about not being heard. I just wanted to play this quick clip again from the committee, and I think it's Grant, is it, from NREN? He's under fire again from this senator, but it kind of talks into exactly what you were talking about. I was going to play that quickly so it'll make some sense into it. Let's share that. There we go.
And this is what you said in your statement. The coalition's announcement of its nuclear plans this week was very welcome and long awaited by us. And then you used a German term, Untermenschen. What does the phrase Untermenschen mean to you, and why did you refer to yourself in this way?
Underclass, because that's the way we feel.
You are aware of the historical roots of this term?
I'm probably lacking some
full
knowledge.
I looked it up. It took me 1 second on Wikipedia. The historical roots of this term are with the Nazi Party, where they described others who are not in the Aryan race as subhuman, and that's what Untermenschen means.
I knew the subhuman. That was my.
So people who disagree with NREN are regarded as Untermenschen.
No.
Okay?
I was referring to us as the Untermenschen in the way we're treated with the whole renewables rollout, and not taking our considerations into account. We are treated as the underclass.
Yeah, and that goes to the point. We've heard both sides of the story here today from farmers. Both are correct, from their perspective, absolutely that's what happened, but we also have our story and our perspective. And the thing is, who is given the role of arbiter of truth to say, well, they're correct, but what you're saying is mis and disinformation?
And this is what you said in your...
So the reason I quickly show that, because it pretty much talked into exactly what you were saying, how communities aren't feeling heard. But what this senator's just done now, she's tried to, disparage the group and the work of the group, and almost labeling them as no. So she's misread wholly and totally what he was trying to say. The point he was making with that name, he was saying, we actually don't feel like we're heard. We feel like the Untermensch. And she was trying to paint that, again, an attack of, oh, we're going to associate you with Nazis, and taking it totally out of context. Now, this is how ridiculous this has got, but it comes home to your point about you not getting your message out, because Labor and the Greens and others are absolutely doing everything they can to try and pull down, community groups like yourself. Does that riles you up? Obviously, you listen back to that again, I'd imagine.
Oh yeah, I watched that live the other day. It made me sick when she alleged that to Grant. I know Grant personally. He is a lovely, gentle soul. To hear her speak to him like that, but that is what they're doing. They try to throw mud at us and hope that it will stick. But what they don't understand is that big sleeping giant I spoke about early is coated in Teflon, and the mud just slides off. Because if they think that they can make some low-grade, shallow allegation like that, and it's going to stick to us, they don't understand what country people are like, and what people who are fighting for their property rights and for their communities are like. So it's dirty tactics, absolutely. But it's always been the same, hasn't it, Mark? I don't understand why, but since I was a kid, people who come from over on the far left just seem to fight dirty, and they get nasty. Whereas the people who sit to the right of centre, we're all sort of far more rational and calm and easygoing and kinder people. I don't understand where that comes from. What I do see now, but, is that those behaviours that they display, they're using in a bid to discredit us and remove us from the conversation. They want us gone out of the conversation, because what they're starting to see now is that people are listening to us. And as this conversation slowly creeps into the edges of the city, and it gets deeper and deeper into those inner city suburbs where the voted on, Labor and now, I guess, Teals and Greens voters are all residing, they don't want the message to get to those people, because guess what that might mean? It might mean that they'll start asking questions, and maybe they'll park their vote somewhere else, which hopefully they will do, because that's what needs to happen. Because if we continue down this road and we continue down covering farms with solar farms and wind turbines, what's going to be left of this country in 50 years?
Yeah, and our children, and I guess this is the reason that we a lot of us is doing this. It's obviously pushing it back against what we see is obviously corruption. It's that whole sense of justice, and there seems to be some injustice here. But it's about the future of I've got children and grandchild, and obviously you have as well. Some of that's obviously going through exams at the moment, also very very involved and looking to see more from him. But we've all got family and kids and grandkids, and this is what we're doing it. So we're not cashed up, well funded like some. You mentioned about the left and being so strong on their attacks and everything. And there's lots of messaging going out there that they are very heavily funded by particular interest groups and people that want to shape society. And we don't have that ability ourselves. So we've got to try and get our voices out there the best we can and work with each other. And this is why you're exactly right. The giant's awakening, because there's a whole community coming together. So we might have them all around the country, and it's all the community of different groups that are actually starting to come together and going, you know what, we've actually got a common enemy. Common enemy is the people that want to censor us. So anybody in the past that ever's wanted to censor speech or mis and disinformation or whatever has always been the bad guy. And there's more and more people waking up, and the key is to be able to bring our fellow countrymen and women with us, which are kind of, sitting at about 80% that aren't, still getting the mesmerising media and everything else like that. So the key is to get your voices out there with Let's Rethink Renewables, the amazing work that you're doing, and try and bring together all the groups and all the people that are working for the same thing, and get our voices roaring and awaken that giant. So, for people For people that are interested, I mean, I'm going to just quickly show a few little flyers and screen things that you've got from your website. So, you know, this is all stuff that people can get off your website and jump on the website as well. So these are all, you know, and people can print these, put them in letterboxes. You know, they can get involved. You know, all these sorts of things. But these are just your, you know, your different ones there. I'm just going to share the different tabs of these different things I've got here.
That's the big billboard that we had on the highway for 3 months with that first bit of initial funding that we had. But the idea of setting up such a like easy on the eye, high impact, easily digestible campaign with these messages, like, is that koala's future? Because that's where they're headed. And build communities, not transmission lines. Like, they're two really good billboards that we had designed, and we want to share these with any group around Australia. And as well, we've got the 5 pillars that I mentioned earlier on that have been established. I mean, that one there is very appropriate, as is rural landscapes, to all of this country, because once these things are gone, they're gone for good. And if we can get that same message that looks the same, because we all know that repetition works. We know that if you see the same thing or you hear the same thing over and over and over, it sinks in and you start to remember it. You start to ask questions about it. You start to research it. That's why we need to get these same messages out all across the nation. So we certainly are happy to share this with any other groups, and that was always the intention. We set it up. We bore the brunt of the initial cost. Here it is. If you would like to secure a billboard somewhere on a highway near your area, go for it. You've got this for free. We've outlaid the big initial cost. Now you can just put it wherever you want to put it. You just have to contact us.
Yeah, no, that's it's a great initiative, and I might just quickly show the you know, bring the website up again for people. So it's let me bring it up here. So let's rethink renewables. So it's let's rethink renewables.org is the website, and obviously people can jump on there. Now the big thing, as I always say with groups like yours, you know, these, and they mentioned it even through the Senate Commission, and Catherine mentioned it, that people, you know, they paid for their own you know, flights and accommodation to get to the Senate inquiries. You know, the groups like yours aren't very well funded. So, you know, the key is that, you know, if you've got people that do have the ability to join as a member. I mean, volunteers is a huge thing, but becoming part of the movement is another big thing. So, you know, this is a real key thing for any small group like yours that hasn't got massive global corporatist funding behind it. It's having the average Australian just saying, look, you know what, Katy's so passionate. We've just heard you talking about it. You know, it's obviously a good cause, and that awareness raising is a massive thing. I mean, that's the real key thing, is pushing through the one-sided narrative that the mainstream media and the government, the bureaucrats are pushing, because they have the voice, they have the funds to be able to do all this. And so it's about trying to encourage our fellow Australians to say, okay, you know, if you feel passionate enough about this as well, get on board. The only way that you can make a difference is by volunteering for organisations like yours or others, if they choose to, and also contribute where you can, financially or with whatever capacity you have. Would that be sort of the message that you'd like to sort of get out there?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You know, we just need to be able to get some core flutes printed, and just, you know, our prospectus that we hand out to people, just all those little things. I mean, in terms of the man hours that go into keeping it running, it's all free. I mean, like you, Mark, I work massive weeks. Most days of the week I'm working. I have to, because I own a business, and the business doesn't run unless I'm inside of it. And then we do all this in our own time. I mean, I've got 2 more hours of meetings again later tonight. I've got 2 kids. We're all in the same boat. And I'm not asking for anybody's sympathy, or I don't want a pat on the back. I just want to point out to everybody that this is how much it means to us all, that we are sticking our necks out. We're using our own funds. We use our own time. My kids have been dragged along to every single action group and anti-renewable meeting in the last few years. I think they're a little bit sick of it now, but it's given them a really good idea of what's happening in the country, which is really nice. But that's where we've spent our family time, in town hall meetings, sitting in cars, driving places where we can get this message out. That is what we do as a family. We haven't had a family holiday in 15 years. And I am not the only person in that boat. There are thousands of people just like this all around Australia right now. So, you know, if I know $10, you know, $10 is $10, but if somebody can just chuck $10 our way and help us out a little bit, it means that we can put some more core flutes up on the sides of highways so that people read the message, and then hopefully they'll go to the web page. That's what it's all about. This is about an information sharing exercise so that we can get everybody to be aware of what's happening out here in the rest of Australia outside of the cities.
Yeah, no, well, hat off to you, mate. As I said, I know you through obviously Australians for Better Government on the committee, and you're so passionate, and I have a lot of time for what you're doing there. You're just a down to earth, salt of the earth Australian farmer that just wants the best for the future of this country. And it seems like we're working against people that have an ulterior view of that. They just want to feather their own nest and pockets. You know, what you're doing in your own time, like you mentioned with your family. Again, I'm in the same boat. You know, we've got alternate media that's, you know, really trying to push through. You don't get much out of that. I'm up to all hours of the evening trying to, you know, put stuff together, research stuff, and following what's going on. And there's so many of us out there doing it now, but ultimately,
there is.
We don't get a lot for it either. You know, and some are obviously breaking through, and it's making it viable. But you know, it comes from a place of passion. So what you're doing is you're doing it because you really want to make a difference, not because there's any financial gain. On the contrary, you know, you're getting hammered, and plus it's taking time away from family and many other things, work, and you're trying to balance all these things. So look, if anybody anybody's interested, I highly recommend obviously jumping on to the Let's Rethink Renewables. You know, give it another plug one more time, and we're going to wind it up because I know that you have got other commitments. You want to get back to things. We both got work and get back into it. But I do really appreciate the time you've given, but I really want to just get the message out there because I really love what you're doing. I love your passion, and you make so much sense. And I'd love for more people to obviously, you know, get involved and see what Let's Rethink Renewables is all about. And if you like the message that Katie's brought to you today, jump on board and reach out and see if you can get in there.
Too. So if people jump on there, there's always interesting bits and pieces. There's a lot of clips of me talking and saying stuff, and you know, that really helps to open up the conversation because the comments get flowing underneath, and you can read through them and you can watch the conversations opening up. And I love that. I really love to see that people are asking questions now and coming back at one another. They're obviously thinking critically, which is a really good characteristic that every human should possess. But when you get people thinking about things and asking questions, that's where we problem solve. And this is all about problem solving at the moment. So yeah, if people want to jump on there, we're really, you know, we want the conversation. We want people asking questions.
Yeah, perfect. And that's your Facebook page there, so people can jump onto that. Is Let's Rethink Renewables, and jump on there and follow the conversations from there. So, no, really appreciate your time, Katy, and I wish you all the best of luck with Let's Rethink Renewables. There's so much going on, and you know, we're all trying to do our little bit. So look, at the end of the day, we just keep punching.
That's right.
It's as much as what we can, and you know, we'll get the message out there somewhere. So I'll let you go. I usually do a little bit of an outro. So if you wanted to jump off after this, but all good to go. So thank you for your time. And good luck with the meeting. I'll talk to you again soon.
Good evening. Could I have your attention for the next 3 minutes? I'd like you to see and hear something which we feel is rather special. God-given land of ours, Australia, this proud possession, our own piece of earth, that was built by our fathers who pioneered our heritage.
Here in Australia, the land of our birth. Our land Australia, our land Australia, all of the Anzacs, the strong and the free. It's a homeland, our own land to cherish for eternity. Our land Australia, the land of the free. Here in Australia, we treasure love and liberty. Our way of life, all for one, one for all. We're a peace not embrace, but should danger ever threaten us, let the world know we will